All right, so here's an interesting topic that is that's not bullshit. It's actually really interesting. Have you ever heard of Morgellons disease? Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
All right, so not only do I. Yes. Okay. So there's people who go to the doctor because they have what they later find out are synthetic fibers that are not naturally occurring in nature that start coming out of their skin. They start having different sores on their body. They have also, it's common for different types of artifacts to basically be ejected from the body, and these are things that are being grown or produced like inside the body. They get pushed out. That have to do with a whole network of synthetic, essentially nanomaterials and synthetic polymer fibers, which are, if you look at videos of these things, they're reactive to body heat, they're reactive to radio frequencies, and it looks like a worm. It looks like a way thinner than a hair, and it wiggles, and these things are self-replicating fibers that they grow networks in the body. This is Morgellons disease. It's a real thing, and it's not it's not natural.
What?
Yeah. So how does this play into what you're saying? So how does this play into your what you were saying?
Come on, jump.
All right. Well, I guess there's some things to think about. If you really look into this, by the way, it doesn't really play into what I'm saying. It's just it could just play into other conspiracies and explain why some other people think certain things. Like when people say, like, oh, the government is, controlling your thoughts or something, right? Well, these fibers are actually.
I think there's a real explanation for why people say that. It's like it's like schizophrenia, like acting on the very real ways in which propaganda affects our thinking and our
like
our
MK
patterns.
Ultra, like program responses or something.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be that complicated. Think about how much money is spent in marketing, right? What is marketing really but propaganda to get you to buy shit, right? And so it's like, in a world where you're inundated with all sorts of propaganda, either through the government or through marketing, right? It becomes like a reasonable fear that people have that their brains are being controlled in some way or influenced by outside actors, right? And so if you have schizophrenia or some sort of delusional psychosis, then obviously it could go in that direction, right?
Yeah, there's definitely different levels of schizophrenia. I do think that term's used too loosely, and I do think the distinction between somebody like me who sounds like a schizo and actual schizophrenics. All right, even if you think I'm a schizo, I'm not, and it's because there's people who have disorganized thinking, and you can tell by the way that they're talking about what they're talking about. If they're talking, it's logic, it doesn't make sense within their own argument. And that's a lot of people who have actual schizophrenia. You can notice that.
Yeah, so disordered thinking and logic doesn't make any sense.
So
Jumping
you're
from topic to
schizophrenic?
topic.
Probably, but not like that.
Like a little.
I mean, based on society, yes. Based off of reality, no. We're living in the Matrix, that's why. I mean, if you're a schizo, you're living out in the real world, right?
Hang on, let me bring this back in for a second. I want to get people's sense on who's gonna win, Jews or China. Yeah, let's
just
put some bets on this.
It's 100% China, dude. I hate to break it to you guys.
China.
But what about the Jews that run China?
I mean, that's a whole different rabbit hole that we could go down.
Yeah, let's go down that. Yeah.
So China has a part of its own government, I think, maybe since 2 or 3 decades ago, that specifically studied how Jews have as much power as they do. So like China copies everything, I think they slowly started to copy that, and that's why China literally copied what Mossad does, and they set up that pedophile network, and I think part of, I think Hunter Biden was a part of that because he had a lot of that thing going on.
Wait,
So
no, slow down. I gotta cross off a bunch of bingo squares. Give me 1 sec.
I mean, yeah, end of the day, you guys should just hop on Duolingo, take Mandarin or Cantonese, and you'll be fine.
Oh, I know Mandarin.
Well, to those who don't, just make yourself useful to the CCP, and you'll be fine eventually.
It's a lucky shot since I was moving around.
agree with me at all on this, but I do think I think mostly the coronavirus is fake, and I do think that there is mass psychogenic illness happening where groups of people come together and think they have the same thing
That's a
because of
lucky
mass
shot,
hysteria.
And it's 100% fake, dude. The CCP invented that bit so they could win their race war.
Yeah. Well, did you see the evidence that the corona it was never isolated the genome and that it literally only exists in theory, like through the documentation that was put out like right before it hit coming from China, and the fact that there's been no isolated virus sent to any of the companies inventing these, developing
That
the
seems
tests
correct.
or the vaccines.
I mean, all I know is that it was created in a lab, and they intentionally leaked it so they could win the race war.
Blending shot, son.
Do you think it would be too unpredictable to actually release a real virus, or do you think it could be I'm eating almonds. I think it could be more controlled if they act like the virus is real, so they can basically scare people into
Why would they
thinking it
release
is.
a virus that cripples their national economy for like many months? Why would
Bill
they do
Gates
that?
was just a puppet to the CCP. He's nothing. He's a pocket
Why
change.
would they do that? Cripple the world for
So
years.
they could
That's not in the
dominate.
interest of China at all.
100% everything is happening. I mean, there's been so many trends that the coronavirus put in place that like were meant to be in place, and you can tell this whole event was just designed for this shit to happen. I mean, seriously.
It's like two.
Yeah,
it's
what
like
do you
a
think about
puzzle
climate
piece
change?
fitting perfectly.
Lucky shot.
Yeah, what do you think about climate change?
I think we
The
control
climate
weather,
changes
and
for
it's not-
sure.
It has nothing to do with greenhouse gases, dude. All of that shit is bullshit. And you know what, dude? If you look, the greenhouse gas theory was literally
lucky shot.
discredited in the early 1900s, right? And then it was revived in like the 1970s. Nothing came of it, and all we do is focus on fucking methane and whatever else we're putting in the atmosphere. When literally every state in the United States admits basically to controlling the weather, and we're participating in this fucking weather modification. I mean, it's a global thing. I can't believe that people think that climate change is real and we're not just manipulating the whole weather. China does it, we do it.
The
Russia
Jews
does
do
it. The Jews do it. Everybody has to, because if you don't control the weather, then other countries are going to succeed in doing it way better than you, and then they're a threat. So everybody has to fucking do it.
Yeah, what do you think of Maxim's question?
When it comes to wildfires, I've actually seen evidence on radar that it was coming from a direct energy weapon because of the way that this red line just randomly appeared literally right before the fire happened in that area. It was a weird anomaly. And all we know is, dude, China has fucking satellites in space capable of shooting a fucking laser beam anywhere on Earth. And I think a really easy, an easy place to start with, to just, start a brush fire somewhere, because it's something that's just like, oh, it's not going to hurt anyone. You can just, boop,
Yeah,
pick
it's
it
just
up.
their satellite testing program. They're just testing it on us. They haven't even unleashed their full power.
I'm more concerned about the fact that the smart streetlights are able to use, because these dielectric lens antennas, that means they can go in any direction, or they can literally link up with other, other dielectric lens antennas into a stronger beam. They can shoot frequencies strong enough to literally set fires to shit. You wouldn't know it because it's the streetlight. I mean, we don't know.